With that, welcome to Inside Big Ten Today, presented by Walmart. Rick Pizzo, Jordan Taylor, Mike DeCourcy joins us a bit later through the magic of satellite television. It is award announcement day. As a fairly recent player, I'm curious, do the college players care when these awards come out? Whether they're first team, second team, honorable mention, does it make a difference?
Well, the operative word there was fairly recent. And to be honest, when I was coming up, I'm an old head now. When I was coming up, absolutely, guys, you're excited to see, especially when you know you had a good year. You want to see if you're on the coaches or media. Nowadays, these kids are built different. They're a little bit more dog in them in the sense of their skill set. But I'm going to go ahead and guess that it matters, yeah.
Fairly recent was not in any way, shape, or form a dig. You're significantly younger than the guy sitting to your right, so you're not allowed to say that you're old. It is time for our big story, and it's your first look at the All-Big Ten first team. 4 players received that nod from both the coach and media voting, including unanimous selections Braden Smith and John Tonje, who were joined by Bryce Williams and Trey Kaufman-Renn. Derek Queen got the final spot on the coaches' ballot for the first team. The media opted for Vlad Golden. And among all those outstanding names, one stands out above the rest. Purdue's Braden Smith named Big Ten Player of the Year, following in the very large footsteps of former teammate Zach Edey, who won this award each of the last 2 seasons. Smith averaged over 16 points, nearly 9 assists, and 5 rebounds during the regular season. That scoring output, by the way, nearly 4.5 points above his previous career high. There was a debate, Jordan, I think until maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago amongst a lot of folks inside these walls and Big Ten fans in general. Should it be Braden Smith? Should he share the award with his teammate, Trey Kaufman-Renn? What about John Tonje? Over the last couple of weeks of the season, it looked more and more clear that this was going to be Smith's award to lose.
Yeah, he's been amazing. You saw the stats all year comparative to Magic Johnson at times. I don't want to be the I told you so guy, but in these walls, I thought it was over since the beginning of February. Braden Smith has been absolutely outstanding. The balance in his game. He plays in the mid-range. He plays at the rim, plays at the 3. He truly is John Stockton. We heard Mike Boynton just recently talk about he's the best point guard he's coached against since Steph Curry. Mike Boynton is uniquely qualified for that qualification because he played and he's coached at the highest of levels. And Braden Smith, the way he breaks down a pick and roll and manage that Purdue team all year long, he does it not just like a vet in college basketball, but a 10-year professional vet in Europe or in the NBA. He's been outstanding.
How impressive was it that he was able to take on the larger scoring role this year that he knew he would need without Zach Edey? And yet we didn't really see any fall off in his facilitation. He still was an assist monster, still got to the board and rebounded really well for a guard. To me, that was maybe the most impressive part of this year.
Yeah, 100%. When I was playing my junior year, I had a guy named John Lure, played 8 years in the NBA. He left. You moved directly to the top of the scouting report. All that pressure comes on you. Braden Smith handled that masterfully. I remember doing the Minnesota-Purdue game back in January. I asked Coach Painter right after they got blown out by Auburn if he was pressing a little bit. The length seemed to bother him, and Matt Painter looked at me like I was crazy. From that point on, Braden Smith took control of the league, took control of his season, and like you said, being able to score, they talked about he can pass the crap out of the ball, but when he puts pressure on the defense, his runaway threes, his mid-range, his floater to score, now he just opens up that entire offense for Fletcher Lawyer, and as good as TKR is, he is the John Stockton to that Karl Malone, and he's the engine.
As for the rest of that first team, I don't think there was any debate that Tonje was going to be on there, Bryce Williams, Trey Kaufman-Renn. The one discussion and disagreement between the coaches and the media was among the big fellas, as the coaches, no surprise to me, go for Derek Queen, who just became a mismatch nightmare in the second half of the season. The media voted for Vlad Golden of Michigan. What's your take on that?
Well, I think you had a case for either one, especially Vlad Golden. You saw Danny Wolf get a lot of the love a lot of times, but Vlad Golden was really the most consistent guy on that team. However, Derek Queen, I'm going to side with the coaches. Us in the media, we're hit or miss, but the coaches, they see these guys every day. Derek Queen, 26% usage rating. That's 93rd percentile in the country. In a college game now where you see guys like John Tonje and others who are 23 years old. Derek Queen is 18, 19, doing this as a freshman. freshman. I think that means just a little bit more now than what it did years ago. And you see the defensive rebounding, the passing. He's getting on the break. He's putting guys in jail. That's what guys 6'1", 6'2" do. His skill set is incredible, and especially in a season with so many good freshmen as well. He didn't get all the love all the time, especially with Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey. So I like that.
All right, so that was the only debate when it came to the first team, and the guys who obviously don't get chosen by the coaches or the media on the first team going to be part of the All-Big Ten second team. And that All-Big Ten second team was absolutely loaded as well. Bruce Thornton, Dawson Garcia, Nick Martinelli, and Danny Wolf, the four guys who were unanimous selections, or I should say chosen by both the coaches and the media. There's really nothing to disagree with here.
Yeah, not at all. Honestly, I feel bad for the coaches have to vote. The media members who have votes, I feel bad because the options were, what are you going to do? Dawson Garcia could have made an argument for first team. Nick Martinelli led the conference in scoring. Danny Wolf, future NBA player. Bruce Thornton, on his best days, is just as good as Braden Smith. So right here, these guys obviously played well all year long. And I think moving forward, you could have made a case for guys like Desmond Claude, but absolutely these guys are deserving, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the tournament.
And again, for those that are confused, why are there only four guys on the second team? There are not only four guys. There was that split vote between Queen and Golden with the coaches and the media. So Queen becomes the second team selection by the media. Golden becomes the second team by the coaches. You got all that?
No, I didn't. I'm glad you're here because I would have been lost.
All right, good. I'm glad we cleared that up. There was no debate as to the Big Ten Freshman of the Year, not at the end of the year, but think about what Derek Queen did, especially late. Here's a guy who was in double figures basically every game, second half of the season, ended up leading Maryland in scoring and won the Big Ten Freshman of the Year award in a year that began with all the talk about the young fellas on the banks with Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. Now, of course, as you would expect, Harper and Bailey were part of the all-freshman team this year, along with Queen, Jace Richardson, who came on strong once Tom Izzo inserted him into the starting lineup, and Kasparis Yakachonis from Illinois. This is the freshman team. In some years, in some leagues, this is your second team, if not part of your first team.
Yeah, in a couple of years, that might be an all-NBA first team
well
or second
said.
team. So that right there, you see, Jace Richardson, Michigan State, obviously winning the league based on their defense, but then him coming on late, being able to score. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, we've talked about those guys all year, but Derek Queen, to me, it makes the most sense because he had the most impact in a winning situation. He was the guy. Rodney Rice, Jacoby Gillespie, they're great. Julian Reese, great. But Derek Queen, like we talked about, that usage rating and his ability to impact that offense was from start to finish was incredible.
Last 15 games, he averaged a double-double, and not just a little bit of a double-double, 16 and 11 over the last 15 games. That is breaking through the freshman wall. No surprise at all in the voting for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Penn State's Ace Baldwin taking home this honor for the second straight season. A lockdown defender who averages nearly 2.5 steals per game. Baldwin is the only Big Ten player to make the National Defensive Player of the Year watch list this season. But he also got some love for what he does on the offensive end, averaging 14 points and more than 7 assists per game. As for the rest of that all-defensive team inside the Big Ten, you have a couple of Oregon teammates and TJ Bamba and Nate Biddle, Jaden Akins, who did such a nice job defensively for Michigan State, and Kobe Johnson, who I would describe as kind of the glue guy for the UCLA Bruins.
Yeah, Kobe Johnson as well as Sky Clark, both of those guys really stalwarts on those defense on the perimeter. TJ Bamba is a guy I'm really happy for him. He didn't get the results that he wanted offensively, I don't think, but late in the season, especially all year, but late, he really stepped up as that defensive guy, making the right play, kind of that leader, that talker on the court, so good for him. And then Jaden Akins, again, obviously congrats to Ace Baldwin, but Jaden Akins, same thing, didn't have the most outstanding offensive season efficiency-wise, did a great job leading that defense, and quite frankly, you could have put the entire Michigan State team there.
You did a nice job there because I was going to ask our producer to sub you out for Rafael Davis, and we were talking about the all-defensive team. If we're talking about scoring, you can sit there, but defense?
Hey, pass it to the basket, man. Nobody want to watch defense, man. Let's see some buckets, man.
So many more reveals still to come. Up next, let you know which super sub has been named Sixth Man of the Year, plus a first look at all the names on the All-Big Ten third team. And in a year of so many great coaching jobs around the league, who gets the nod as the Conference Coach of the Year? That answer on the way in just about 3 minutes' time.
Ish.
Illinois' Will Riley has been named the Big Ten Sixth Man of the Year. Riley averaged more than 12 points, nearly 4 rebounds per game for the Illini, and just about 25 minutes on the floor per game this season. He's been extremely consistent late in the year, scoring in double figures in 10 of his last 11, including a 22-point outing to close out the regular season in Friday's win over Purdue. And from a Big Ten newcomer to the man who is the face of the league, Tom Izzo has been named Big Ten Coach of the Year for the 4th time, but first since 2012, after a season during which Izzo passed Bob Knight to become the winningest coach in Big Ten Conference history. This year's regular season title is the 11th outright or shared championship for the Spartans under Izzo and marks the 13th consecutive non-COVID season in which MSU has won at least 20 games. And we are thrilled now to welcome in the Coach of the Year, Tom Izzo, for our big interview. Tom, always great to catch up. First and foremost, congrats on the award and to your team on what's been an amazing season so far.
Well, I really appreciate it. I mean, that award came a few times early in my career, and it's been a long time. And yet, I think my team deserved this award. You hear every coach give coach speak and how the team did, your assistants did. If there's ever a year when that is true, this is true. We've had an incredible year, but we've done a lot of things together, and it's truly the group effort that does this. And there's nothing better than to tell your team, if we have success, individuals have success. Well, we've had success, and I get to be the recipient of some of that. And I'm grateful to all the coaches and media and everybody who voted.
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned that it's been a while since you've won it. Your last one, the third, coming back in 2012. Does it become more meaningful when awards like this happen a little bit later on and deeper into your career?
Hell yeah. You kind of know that everybody knows you get certain ages that you're on the back nine, and if you can survive in these jobs anymore. But I think it's more meaningful too that people start thinking maybe it's the game has passed you by, and it's good to know that the game hasn't passed me by until I quit working, and that's the way I look at it.
And you got to work against some really good coaches. I mean, this league was stacked in terms of coaching before the 4 new teams arrived. And then you get guys like Mick Cronin, who just won his 500th game. Dana Altman, who seemingly has won about 10,000 games. How do you describe the quality of coaching in this league, Tom?
The SEC deserves the credit they've gotten this year in a lot of ways, but I say this has been a coach's league since I got in, with Bob Knight and Gene Cady and Clem Haskins and Lou Henson, Tom Davis. You think about that group, and it just constantly gotten better and better and better. I think of some of the wars with Bo Ryan and John Beeline and Bruce Weber, and there were so many big games, and I marvel at the coaches in this league. That's why it's so meaningful to me to be this, even though I voted for a couple other people. I thought there were some guys, sometimes it's not the guy who wins it. I look at what Greg Gard did. I really look at what Chris Collins did, with his team. I mean, those things are, sometimes we get Coach of the Year awards because our team wins, but there's more to it than that. Sometimes you do your best job when your team doesn't win as many games.
And the head coach gets the award, but this is really, truly a staff award, though the Big Ten does also hand out an Assistant Coach of the Year award. And Doug Wojcik, who sits next to you on the bench, is the Howard Moore Assistant Coach of the Year. What does Doug mean to you, to this staff, to this program?
Well, first, let me say what Howard means. Getting an award named after Howard is incredible. And I know Doug, being a military guy, a Naval Academy guy, is very appreciative of that. But he's meant the world to me. He's really done an unbelievable job. He's been a head coach. And so there's a lot of staff meetings. He'd always say, man, you don't know what he's going through until you become a head coach. And I think there's truth to that. So my staff has done an incredible job. But Doug has been, my associate head coach and the guy that really has helped in a lot of ways this year, and he's kind of the defensive coordinator, and our defense has been phenomenal. So I'm really happy, proud of him, but I'm really proud that he gets an award named after Howard too, because that's we all know what he's gone through, and we all know how special of a guy he is.
That's really well said, Tom. Your team becomes the first to win the league outright without a player on the first or second all-conference team since Purdue did it, and that was in your first year as a head coach in this league. How do you explain success in a group without big-time awards from any individuals?
Well, as you know, as the season went on, we had some guys, Jace Richardson has really come on. I think, Jaden Akins has come on here down the stretch, Jeremy Fears and Trey Holloman and Cohen Carr. So we've had a lot of guys. It's just that we play a lot of guys, and people are earning their right. But I don't look at that as a negative. I really don't. I look at it as there's some very deserving guys. Each one of us coaches know that our guy deserves what they got. You don't win the league by 3 games in this league with the competition the way it is, unless you got very good players worthy of all kinds of awards. But I do appreciate that in this league too, we have some great players, and I've got some of them, and maybe not on the first team right now, but they will be there in the future.
I think that's a safe bet. Tom, I want to go back to last May. You said to me at the Big Ten meetings in Terranea that you were, quote, maybe just too stubborn to change. So after a year like that, does that mean that stubborn's not all bad, or did you actually soften up a little bit?
No, I think I did say change, but I think I also said too stubborn to quit, because we all know that everybody's been through a lot, and a lot of people have hung it up, but that's what made this team so special. I mean, they revived me. I don't think I've changed a lot. I think I've adapted. I don't think you should ever change your principles, but I do think you have to adapt to the times, I know a lot of different music now. I know a lot of different hairstyles over the 30 years, a lot of different pants and skirts, how they were worn. But the general part of it is still the same. You got to defend, rebound, and run. You got to take care of the ball. And really, you got to be demanding. Because if you're trying to win championships, as they say, if it was easy, everybody could do it. So there's got to be some way of separating yourself. And I think I've learned to do that. But I've even spent more time with my guys. We went to Europe. We went to the UP. We went to baseball, basketball, football games. We did things together on such a basis that they've re-energized me. So my staff has been great, but my team has been special, and I appreciate those guys for what they've done for me.
And Tom, one of those principles that you've stuck by throughout your entire career is the importance of developing players who understand and know what the culture of your program is all about. Now, I know Tyson Walker a year ago came out of the portal and was an important part, but for the most part, you haven't really dove into there because you really haven't had to. So why is the way that you're doing it right now still working for your program as well as it is?
I think one of the things you got to do is you got to make sure the guys know you care about them that are here so they don't leave. But you got to go into the portal now just because of the nature of the beast and the way it is. And I'm not afraid to do that. It's not like I'm against paying players. Everybody tries to make all these statements, but the truth of it is, I do think that you've got to have a culture. You got to have some discipline. You got to have some accountability. That hasn't changed in 125 years of basketball here, 125 years of sports at any of these colleges or any successful organizations, including business. So we get away from it once in a while, but thank God it comes back. And I'm just happy that I got a bunch of guys that I haven't had to spend a lot of time disciplining. I haven't had to spend a lot of time making them accountable. I think the players before them here have helped me so much to know what it's like, the Mateen Cleaves and Smiths and all those guys, the Draymonds, they call the players. They tell the players. It's a privilege and it's a responsibility, and I love that.
All right, Tom, let's finish here as you get ready to take this team to Indianapolis, try to back up the regular season title with a conference tournament title. What's been the best part of this year for you, and what have you enjoyed the most about coaching this particular group?
Selfless. They've been selfless. They've sacrificed. They've given up, maybe a few more minutes or a few more points for the betterment of the team. There is a reason. I think Jace got injured. He got a concussion a little bit in the Memphis game, third game of the year. And I think we had one guy sick. We've never had any injuries. I think part of that is because we're fresh all the time. We have some freshness to us. And so it's been fun to watch a bunch of guys grow together and sacrifice a little for each other. And that doesn't happen all the time in this day and age. So I consider myself very fortunate and lucky.
Tom Izzo, your 2025 Big Ten Coach of the Year, the fourth time he's won this award in his Hall of Fame career. Tom, always great to catch up. Congrats again. Look forward to chatting with you on Friday down in Indianapolis.
Well, it should be a hell of a tournament. The Big Ten is going to make some noise. I'm hoping that somebody in this league wins a national championship this year, but we have a lot of good teams that are capable of doing it. The tournament in Indy should be as good as maybe any I've been involved in my 25 years of this tournament or whatever it's been. So looking forward to it. I'll see you down there.
Yes, there's a lot of folks out there hoping that somebody in this league wins it because no one has since Izzo's 2000 team. And while MSU had no players on the All-Big Ten first or second team, you see two Spartans earn third-team honors. Jace Richardson and Jaden Akins joined on this list by Yaka Chonis, Jacoby Gillespie, Nate Biddle, Jackson Shellstad, Tyler Bilodeau, Ace Bailey, and Dylan Harper. Your take on this all-third team with a couple of guys, really important, obviously, selections for the Spartans. Told you at the top of the show that Braden Smith has been named Big Ten Player of the Year. Up next, we sit down with the Boiler point guard to talk about his ever-evolving game. These are the numbers behind Braden Smith's Player of the Year season. Smith's line of more than 15 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds per game hasn't been matched in more than 2 decades by any high major conference player. Smith is already the Boilers' single season and career assist leader. And as we all know, his beard is always in all conference form. We are thrilled to welcome in the Player of the Year, Braden Smith. Braden, I'm always curious about how players find out about these kind of awards. So who told you? How'd you find out? What was your first emotion when you found out?
Yeah, I was told by Chris Foreman, one of our guys. He texted me and let me know, you got some media tomorrow. And I was like, for what? Obviously, because not normal. And he told me like the reason and stuff. So I heard it yesterday, and it was obviously a great feeling and awesome to hear.
What's the importance for you of continuing to rep Purdue, following up on the 2 straight Big Ten Player of the Year awards that your former teammate Zach Edey had won?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, it's an amazing accomplishment, amazing award. But I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to win, and we still got March Madness and the Big Ten tournament left. So, I mean, that's where our focus is right now, and that's where mine is. So,
how did your approach change in terms of what your role would be this year, knowing that you'd still have to be the point guard, you're still going to have to facilitate, but with Zach being gone, that a little bit more of the scoring load was going to fall on your shoulders as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was ready for it. I was prepared for it. I put in a lot of time and work to do so, and it's my job at the end of the day. And that's why Paint recruited me to be here. That's what I think a true point guard is, and that's what their job is. So to me, I just feel like that's what I'm required to do. And I feel like overall, it's worked out. And when you're put around a lot of great players and a great staff, it makes my job that much easier.
I'm sure you do a lot of self-scouting. So when you compare yourself and what you're doing this year, especially offensively, to what you did in your first couple of years, what are the biggest things that jump out in terms of differences?
Yeah, I think just being more aggressive offensively. I mean, I get yelled at by Payne all the time for not shooting. So I think that's just the biggest thing, because I always want to include everybody and get them the ball and put them in spots to be successful. Because like I said, like I believe that's my job. And as a point guard, that's what we're supposed to do. So I think just understanding like when to score and when not to score, and when it's time to take over a game or when it's time not to. So.
What's the relationship like with you and Matt Payne, right? I think it's funny to hear you say that Payne yells at you, and the only time he really does is when he's telling you that you got to be more aggressive and score, because those of us in the media, we don't see Payne as much of a yeller. I'm guessing in the locker room from time to time, it can be a little bit different. How important has that player-coach relationship been to not just you, but to the both of you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's been everything. I think just having a coach that truly trusts in his players. He's never lied to me. He's always told me the truth. And he's stuck with his word. And I think just having somebody like that, like, it builds trust for me. And obviously, like, it goes a long way. I mean, he threw us in the fire at a very young age when a lot of people could have went other ways, but he trusted us and we gained that trust. And I think that truly, like, is the main factor that is in all this, and that has got me to where I'm at today. So.
From a team perspective, I think one of the biggest questions for you guys heading into the year, how different would you look without the big fella down low? And could Trey Kaufman-Renn make the next step in his career? Well, he joins you on the All-Big Ten first team, had an outstanding season. How did you see Trey develop this year, and what made him so special?
Yeah, I saw him develop, obviously, on the court, but I think the biggest thing was off the court. Like, he's just a quiet dude, kind of just goes off and does his own thing, and we'll see him at practice or at the games or whatever the case may be, but he's been out more, like, he's doing more stuff with the team, and, like, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but, I mean, he's obviously made a huge stride to do so and a huge effort to do so, and I think that shows more to us, because we saw him my freshman year and sophomore year where he was kind of quiet and just to himself, and to what he is now. And you can kind of see that on the court too, with like the confidence and all the stuff he's doing. And it's honestly great for us.
I know you're looking forward to a few more winning moments down in Indianapolis this week and then in the NCAA tournament. But to date, with the regular season now in the books, as you start to look back, what's been the best moment, or what have you enjoyed the most about this particular season?
Yeah, just spending the time with these guys. It's an unbelievable group. I mean, a lot of people counted us out early, and I think we've took that to heart, and we put in a lot of work and a lot of time, and obviously season isn't over, so we still got a lot left to accomplish. But I mean, at the end of the day, just spending time with these guys and the younger guys that are coming in, showing them the way and showing them the ropes of things, and just for me, just trying to improve as a leader. And I think I've done a better job than my first 2 years, so I think those would be the big things for sure.
And perhaps the toughest job of a leader is to make sure that a team is ready to play in a situation like Indy after a finish that I know wasn't what you guys envisioned. The loss to Illinois, you dropped 5 of your last 7, I believe. So what has to improve? What do you have to get back to make sure that your run in Indy is as long as you'd like it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think just playing with fun and passion, just having fun. And I think that's just the biggest thing. I think just understanding that these games are obviously there's meaning behind them now, but I think just letting that go and just playing loose, going out there and enjoying every single moment with these guys, because I mean, the season has gone by so quick and it goes by quick. So I think just understanding that, and my job to tell these other guys that like it does go by quick and that it will like in the blink of your eyes it's gone. So I think just understanding that and really just focusing on these next couple games and enjoying the moment.
Braden, I'm curious if it feels different heading into this tournament than the last couple of years. You guys obviously won the league the last couple of years, didn't start until Friday. Now you'll play on Thursday night. And at least in terms of the seeding, you're not considered to be one of the favorites. Does it feel different to you and to the other guys who are on this team the last couple of years as you get ready for the conference tourney?
I mean, honestly, no. For me, I mean, it's another game. I mean, we got to win games either way, and I think at the end of the day, if we do our job, we'll be where we should be. And I think whether we look at that, whether we're the 6th seed or the 1 seed, whatever the case is, I mean, we still got to go out there and beat teams to win the whole thing. So that's our goal, and that's our mindset going into this weekend.
Braden Smith, your 2025 Big Ten Player of the Year. Braden, truly appreciate the time. Congrats on really a phenomenal honor. Look forward to watching you guys down in Indianapolis this week and beyond.
Thank you.
Take a look at the Big Ten teams, 10 of them in Mike DeCourcy's latest bracket, led by Michigan State as a 2 seed, Wisconsin, Purdue, and Maryland all top 4 seeds, with Oregon and Michigan as 5 seeds. UCLA and Illinois will be favored in their first-round games. Mike has both Indiana and Ohio State among the last 4 in, which would mean the Hoosiers and Buckeyes, as of now, according to Mike, would be heading to Dayton for first 4 games. It's nice to talk about what Mike DeCourcy has to say. It's nicer to talk to the man himself. Mike, I want to start at the top of your bracket, at least as far as Big Ten teams go, with Michigan State as a 2. It's going to be hard for the Spartans to get a 1 seed unless things happen to fall their way in other conferences. So are they locked in? Is this as high as Michigan State's ceiling can possibly be?
I think realistically it probably is, but you do have to look at, and they will talk about this a lot in New York, especially considering the consequences. The difference between a 1 seed and a 2 seed is pretty dramatic. So they really have to look at what Michigan State's case is, and it starts with 12 Quad 1 wins now, a 12-4 record against Quad 1. Auburn is the only team with more Quad 1 wins than that. Tennessee's had 18 opportunities and only has gotten to 11. So that tells you a lot about the quality of the work Michigan State has done over the year, but especially in winning 7 consecutive Quad 1 games. I'm not sure. We've only had the quads for 4 or 5 years. I don't think anybody's ever done that. It's been pretty amazing to see. Usually there's a Quad 2 or 3 that gets mixed in there, but the league is so strong and the Spartans are so strong that that's happened. They would need some cooperation probably from Florida, which is right now the least of the number 1 seeds. Houston, if they were to have a quarterfinal disaster, maybe in the Big 12, but I think it's pretty solid for the Cougars. Florida's the one that's somewhat vulnerable. And again, it would really just take the committee looking at it and saying, okay, the metrics are close, but they're clearly not favoring the Spartans. So we're going to go with the Spartans even so because of the Quad 1 wins. And that's less likely than them just saying, okay, the metrics are great for Florida or Tennessee or Alabama. The Quad 1 wins are fine. We'll go in that direction.
All right, Mike, let's transition now to a couple of bubble teams, starting with Indiana. A nice finish to the year, and perhaps the best news for Mike Woodson and company, the win over Ohio State locked them into the 9 seed and guaranteed them an opening game in Indianapolis against Oregon, a team that's headed for the NCAA tournament. So a win certainly locks them in. Are they in any danger based on what happens outside the Big Ten if they were to lose that game of actually missing out on the tournament?
You can never, when you're projected at this level, feel comfortable, and especially if you don't advance. The good news, when you mentioned about being locked in into the 8-9 game in the Big Ten tournament, what that means with the Ducks being your opponent is there will be no bad loss for Indiana in Indianapolis. They will either advance or they'll accumulate quality wins or they'll take a loss to a team that's clearly a field team, clearly a top 4 or 5 seed team. So that would be not problematic for them. But you do have to worry a little bit about what's going on around you. How badly does the committee want to have Carolina into the field with 1 Quad 1 win out of 12 opportunities? You always worry about that until you see the bracket and the Tar Heels aren't there. And you also have to worry maybe they go out and steal a bid by winning the ACC tournament, and that takes one off the field. And where do you stand if you're the Hoosiers at that point? So I think it's really important for the Hoosiers to play competitively. They've got really good resume metrics right now. They stand at slightly over 41, which is just outside a 10 seed level. So they're in really good shape with that. Predictive metrics not quite so good. They've got several quality wins. I think they're in good shape, but they would be in great shape at this point if they were able to take out the Ducks.
Obviously, the other side of that regular season finale fell to Ohio State, who dropped to the 10 line, which means they get to face the 15 seed in the first round of the Big Ten tournament on Wednesday. And that win doesn't really do you any good in terms of building up your resume. So what does Ohio State have to accomplish when they get to the Big Ten tournament?
Well, I think, first of all, we saw what a motivated Iowa team could do. And so they have to be really ready for that game against the Hawkeyes. The Hawkeyes have already knocked 1 Big Ten team off the bubble by taking Nebraska out of the Big Ten tournament. Hard for me to imagine that the committee would take a team into the NCAA tournament that didn't qualify for the Big Ten tournament. So I consider them to be off the bubble now. And so that's a dangerous game for the Buckeyes. I mentioned before about the 40-41 rating in resume metrics for Indiana. Ohio State's is 49, and so that's not a definite in-type situation. They do have excellent predictive metrics, which will help balance that out a little bit, and they've got elite quality wins over Purdue and Kentucky and Maryland. So all of that is in their favor. They have to beat Iowa, I think, to feel good about themselves, and then their second-round game would be against Wisconsin. Again, no bad loss there if you fall all out of the tournament at that point. But again, you just have to worry about what's happening around you. For both of those teams, this has been a good week in the bid steal department because we have Gonzaga and St. Mary's playing one another in the West Coast Conference Final. They're both going. Drake took care of business on Sunday against Bradley. They were possibly going to make it. They were going to cause problems for other bubble teams. Now you don't have to worry about that. The only potential bid steal out there is Memphis. And remember, behind both of these teams in line in that first four category on the in-line is Xavier, which at this point has only won one quad one game. So they definitely don't stack up to the two Big Ten teams. They've got a game against Marquette in the Big East quarterfinals, and they have the potential to win the Big East tournament. They're certainly good enough. And I guess at that point, you would either consider that a bid steal or just a bid assurance by them getting the trophy in New York on Saturday night.
The encyclopedic knowledge right now and the metrics are actually starting to blow my mind. So I'm going to ask something of a generic question to even things out, at least for me. Which Big Ten team has the most to gain in Indianapolis?
Well, honestly, I think in some ways it's Oregon, because Oregon collected all those terrific non-conference wins early. Then they struggled a bit in the Big Ten, lost 4 games in a row. They've got that Indiana game, which is a quality win for them if they get it. It's a quad one win. And then they play Michigan State. And if they could get past Michigan State, the reigning Big Ten regular season champion, then they would have to be seriously considered for a top 4 seed. They've been around the 5-6 area for a while, pretty comfortably there, because you have the big split in their resume metrics and their predictive metrics. So if you put the ability to advance to the Big Ten semis into this equation, I think at that point you'd really be talking about Oregon as a top 4 seed. So other teams can kind of lock in their positions. Wisconsin could do some good things here and secure a 3 seed. UCLA maybe make sure that they get a 6 by taking care of a great win on Friday in the quarters. But I really think that if you look at the deepest, you look at Oregon, that's the team that has the most to gain. They all have a trophy to win, which is cool and a big deal. But in terms of NCAA tournament seeding, it would be Oregon.
Mike, phenomenal stuff. Jordan Taylor sitting next to me. He's got a graphing calculator, 7 computers, and an abacus trying to figure out all the different possibilities that you have just given us. Really appreciate all the info, but Mike's not going anywhere. He's not done. Coming up more later in the show. And of course, our reminder, don't miss the 2025 TIAA Big Ten Men's Basketball Tournament. Our coverage live from Indianapolis, 4 games Thursday, 4 games Friday, studio coverage all week long. You can only see it on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Of course, 3 games will be played Wednesday inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Up next, we look ahead to round 1 matchup for the Bucks and Hawks, Trojans and Scarlet Knights, Wildcats and Gophers. Excited to get inside that building right there, Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis for the 2025 Big Ten Men's Basketball Tournament presented by TIAA. We only know 1 matchup on Thursday. That's the 8-9 we just discussed between Oregon and Indiana. Northwestern and Minnesota will kick things off on Wednesday, 3:30 Eastern. Other opening round games include Iowa and Ohio State, USC and Rutgers with Wednesday's nightcap. All right, Mike, let's start with Northwestern, Minnesota. Gophers became giant beaters late in the year, and they play really tough. But as we heard Tom Izzo say earlier in the year, the job that Chris Collins has done with Northwestern through so much adversity, I think this game is going to be a much better, a really more entertaining game than maybe the seeds would otherwise suggest.
I think that's exactly right. You've seen both of those teams do special things at various times throughout the year. Minnesota taking out Michigan, for example. And nearly, I mean, think about where we are now. Where would Ohio State be if they hadn't escaped the Gophers in that overtime game? So really a nice job by Ben Johnson. And then I can't say enough about what Chris Collins has done. If Brooks Barnheiser made the honorable mention for this league, I think he would have been a first-teamer if he hadn't been lost for the year in early February. And so to lose a player like that and still to be competitive, to win 3 quality games in late February, it didn't end great, but it was a tough schedule in the final 2. So I think that Northwestern against Minnesota is a very compelling game. You've got excellent players on both sides. And Nick Martinelli versus Dawson Garcia. That's an interesting matchup because they don't really play alike.
Yeah, I mean, they don't play alike, but similar positions. But then again, I would just go to the coaches. Both of those guys really could be in the Coach of the Year conversation. I know it's not popular to say because of their records, but the way Chris Collins has moved guys around and moved Nick Martinelli off the ball to avoid double teams, and then Ben Johnson just getting them to play as a unit with cohesion, with Lukai Patterson, Isaac Asima, Femi Odekale, and then mixing in the Dawson Garcia one-on-one has been tremendous.
What about Iowa, Ohio State? Buckeyes took that L to Indiana. Can't afford another one against an Iowa team that, when it gets hot offensively, is really dangerous.
Yeah, they're really dangerous. And Mike mentioned we've seen what they can do when they get it going. Josh Dix, Peyton Sandfort, all those guys, they can fill it up. They can fill it up quick. The problem is Ohio State is uniquely qualified to match up with those guys. Micah Paris matching up with Peyton is going to be really fun to watch. His length, his size, being able to kind of shut down driving lanes, force him to shoot over the top of you. And then on top of that, Iowa's defense has been largely struggling throughout the year, as duly noted. And Ohio State's offense coming on really strong as of late with Bruce Thornton and John Mobley Jr.
I'll agree with you that the defense struggled for Iowa through a lot of the year. They had a pretty good game on Sunday. For me, it'll all come down to how do they handle Bruce Thornton at the point of attack. Can they keep him away from the lane? That's the big key for the Hawkeyes.
All right, Mike, well, let's go to you then with the nightcap on Wednesday night. It's USC and Rutgers. The Trojans had to wait for a long time to see if they would be part of the tournament. The Scarlet Knights finished with dramatically over the weekend to get that number 11 seed. What do you think will be the key when these two teams match up late Wednesday?
Well, I think the question really is, can Dylan Harper do again what he did on Sunday? That was maybe the best game he's played all year, and they were able to win without Ace Bailey contributing at a high level, which was really important. So USC has to find a way to contain Dylan Harper. USC did not go out well. They had a very poor outing at Pauley Pavilion against UCLA on Saturday night. So they're going to want to play better, of course, now that they've got another opportunity against a terrific group of talented players at Rutgers. But I think it all comes down to Harper. Can they contain him, and can they keep him out of the lane?
Well, this one, I don't care about the analysis, man. This one, I hope I'm not on a flight during this one because it's Desmond Claude, it's Dylan Harper, it's Ace Bailey, it's Wesley Yates. The last time they matched up, 95-85. The Rutgers duo had 66% of those points. The USC duo had about 50% of those points. The individual talent on display at Gamebridge in an NBA arena. All these guys with NBA potential. I'm going to just sit back and enjoy this one. There's going to be a lot of great coaching as well, but I just want to see the individual talent on display.
That's so on brand. That's why when we were talking about the all Big Ten defensive team earlier, I told you could go and have Raphael come back in. You want to see a 110-104 game.
120 to 115. They need to start making rules for defensive teams. You got to average at least 12 points.
People would be walking out of Gamebridge Fieldhouse at like 3 in the morning trying to get ready for Thursday's
Pass it to the basket.
basketball. For Mike DeCourcy and Jordan Taylor, I'm Rick Pizzo. Thanks for the hang on this edition of Big Ten Today.